In the sport of football, injuries on the field are not a rarity. In fact, they are almost as common as the players themselves are. An injury like the one Matthew Stafford had is not surprising, but it was devastating for fans. Thankfully for those fans, Stafford is looking right on track for the season. Want to know what Stafford and those working with the injury had to say exactly? Keep on watching to find out. First, let's talk about the Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford graduated from his high school early in 2006, and in the same year, he enrolled at the University of Georgia. Stafford played quite well during his time as a college player. So well, in fact, that in 2008, many NFL analysts made predictions that turned into premonitions about Stafford being the #1 pick in the NFL draft for 2009. In April of 2009, the Detroit Lions picked Stafford up, making him the first pick of the draft. Stafford's deal set a record, one that would be beaten 2 years later when Sam Bradford would draft the St. Louis Rams for $76 million. The record that was set was for the most money given to a player in a draft deal, with Stafford receiving $41.7 million. Stafford played with the Detroit Lions all the way up until 2020 when he was traded to the Rams in exchange for Jared Goff. In the first game that Stafford played with the Rams, he managed to throw 321 yards for 3 touchdowns. This year, in 2022, Stafford signed a 4-year extension with the Rams for $160 million. Before we get into what Stafford said about his injury, let's look at what the injury is. Stafford's injury came in early August when he found himself dealing with elbow tendinitis, which is described as an inflammation or irritation of a tendon. Tendinitis is usually caused by the repetition of one particular movement over time, repetition such as throwing a football for hours over a decade. Tendinitis is known to cause pain and tenderness right outside the affected person's joint. This condition is one that is widely attributed to athletes. In fact, some of the names that it is also referred to by include golfer's elbow, jumper's knee, and swimmer's shoulder. If you don't properly treat tendinitis, you place yourself at a much higher risk of rupturing a tendon, which can be very bad and will even require surgical repair. Thankfully, this will not be the case for Stafford, who got the proper treatment. The treatment for tendinitis is quite simple and only requires proper resting as well as physical therapy with the usual medications to reduce your pain. It's common for people with tendinitis to heal and feel themselves again after just 2 to 3 weeks, give or take. Tendinitis is not a rarity in sports. Many of your favorite players have suffered from it. Some have even had to retire earlier than expected because of it. Now, let's talk about what Matthew Stafford had to say about his tendinitis condition. While many athletes are forced into an early retirement due to tendinitis, Matthew Stafford will be on the field sometime soon. Stafford told everybody that he's able to go out and function at a high level. He said that he hopes his elbow will only continue to get better, which it seems like it is doing. Stafford let fans awaiting his return know that he is remaining hopeful and busy, but not too busy. Stafford told everyone that he's going out, doing his work, and putting his trust in the process. Coach Sean McVay said that he saw zero reason for concern around Stafford's injury. Stafford said that he feels good physically, and as long as the elbow only gets better or stays as it currently is, he's right on track to join his teammates back on the field by the start of the new season, which is currently set to start on Thursday, September 8th. McVay did say that the goal was to make sure that Stafford is 100% injury-free. He also maintained that he did see Stafford throwing the football around, and from what he'd seen, it looked like the quarterback he's always known, which he claims to be the most important thing. While on the topic of football, let's talk about Emmanuel Sanders' retirement. Wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders had played in the NFL for 12 seasons before he decided that it was time for him to move on to different things in his career. After playing 12 seasons, 3 of them taking him to the Super Bowl and 1 of them giving him a Super Bowl ring, Sanders is now leaving the NFL as a 35-year-old man. Sanders started by announcing that he was proud to have chased his dream and accomplished what he set out to do. He continued on to say what every football player will tell you: the game is tough on the human body. He said that in the 12 years he'd played, he had a heck of a career. He then asked fans and himself what else he had to prove. Many fans wondered what Sanders will be doing now that he's officially retired. Well, while he will no longer have a career in football, he will have one that focuses on it, as he said that he plans to be a television analyst. He has not yet announced anything further on the topic, but fans know that it is coming at some point in the future. Speaking of the Rams, let's talk about the Bobby Wagner situation. Rams general manager Les Snead received a text that he found suspicious and thought that it could have even been a hoax of sorts. The text he received was from linebacker Bobby Wagner, who had recently just been let go from the Seattle Seahawks, making him a free agent at the time. In the text, Wagner informed Snead he was currently representing himself. In his self-led search for a new team, Wagner came to the Rams and he wondered if Snead was interested. Snead was not the only one to get a mysterious text from a person who signed off as Bwags. The text was sent to a great bunch of general managers in the NFL. Based on the random nature of the text he'd received, Snead assumed the message to be a fake of somebody claiming to be Wagner, probably in an attempt to get general managers' hopes up. That didn't stop Snead from doing a bit more research on it, and when he did get in touch with Wagner, he was shocked to realize that the text actually was from him. After finding out it it was actually Wagner, Snead got into discussions, and Wagner joined the team on March 31st of 2022. Moving on, let's talk about the Rams' halftime performance featuring Ozzy Osbourne. It was announced that the 2022 NFL season will be met with an extremely special halftime show performance from the King of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne. This is special not only because it's the legendary and beloved former Black Sabbath frontman, but because it will mark the first show in the US that Osbourne has played in the last 2 years. Osbourne recently underwent a procedure for an important issue that Osbourne said would determine the rest of his life. Osbourne has only played once since the procedure for 2 songs. At the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games in England, Osbourne performed Black Sabbath hits Paranoid and Iron Man. Osbourne has maintained his eagerness to perform live for fans, saying that he will continue to find his way back on stage, even if it turns out to be the death of him. The heavy rocker, who is now 73, will play a set at halftime at the SoFi Stadium during the Rams and Bills game, which will be the first of the season. The game takes place on the 8th of September, with Ozzy Osbourne releasing his 13th studio album one day later on the 9th. Finally, let's discuss all of the news around the Rams. The injury that Stafford received, as well as his recovery, was large news, but they were simply just a few things that happened with the Rams. One thing that happened was Bobby Wagner signing on to the team. With the Super Bowl winner on their team, many fans of the sport and the team have prematurely put their money on the Rams. Nearly instantly upon Wagner being signed to the team, he was promoted to captain of the team. The first game of 2022 will be played on the 8th of September and will be between the Los Angeles Rams and the Buffalo Bills. The game will be held at the SoFi Stadium, a stadium that, despite being worth $5 billion, does not have air conditioning. The stadium decided to cool off the fans watching the show with a specially designed roof, as well as walls with the same design. The walls are meant to allow winds from the Pacific Ocean, cooling off the people in the bleachers naturally. The players will still have to run around in the extremely hot weather, far away from the bleachers, which some may consider dangerous, but is nothing new to the players on the field. There's a lot to expect this season, not only for Stafford, but for his team as well. With the Rams' inclusion of Bobby Wagner, the team is looking pretty good this season. Of course, only time will tell. How do you think the Rams will play? Let us know below.